Welcome back to the Deep Life. Today, we are joined by the Limitless coach, Mark Fournier. Mark is a life mastery and peak performance coach who has dedicated his life to creating a better world by helping to raise human consciousness. He's also a psychotherapist, best-selling author, Emmy award-winning filmmaker, inventor, keynote speaker, and he is the founder and provost of Limitless University. Mark, welcome to the Deep Life.
Well, thank you so much. I am honored to be here and looking forward to sharing something of value to your listening audience.
I'm confident we'll dive very deep, Mark. It is a pleasure to have you. We are just thrilled and honored that you are a guest on our show today.
Thank you so much.
Really excited to start diving deep into what it means to live a limitless life. But could you start out with just giving us a little bit of background, how you became the Limitless coach?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for asking. I have my mother to thank for that. So anyone who is uncertain as to the impact parenting can have on their kids. So my mom was she was the most enlightened being that I've ever personally spent any great deal of time with. She just had an incredible, insatiable appetite for all things to do with the human psyche and human behavior and consciousness and the nature of reality. And this is all I knew. This is how I was raised, where most kids they're told there's a Santa Claus, and then by about the age of 8 to 10 or somewhere in there, they're told, no, just kidding. There's really nothing. There are no supreme beings. There's, religiously there may be somebody there, but otherwise you're probably not going to ever meet anyone who's who is limitless. I mean, there aren't real live superheroes. Well, that's what most folks learn by a pretty early age, but I never learned that. My mom did not believe that. She was teaching me at the age of 10 that not only were the value and importance of goal setting, for example, but she was teaching me that things like the goals double as limitations. They don't teach that. Think about it. You say, I'm going to double my sales this week. Well, why are you only going to double them?
Ooh.
And so this is all I ever knew, was that we were indeed limitless beings. And she actually based it on a simple principle, which was the cliche, and it's been attributed to everyone from Lao Tzu to Plato to Henry Ford. So many people have made this statement and claimed somehow it's been attributed to them, but it's that classic, anything we can conceive and believe we can achieve. Well, the concept here is, wait a minute, let's just pretend it's not a cliche, just a clever little rhymey little statement. What if that were actually true? Well, let's break it down. Anything we can conceive. Well, we're human beings, right? Is there anything we can't conceive? I mean, look at the things we think of. We think of some amazing things, and we're constantly taking our knowledge to the next level. So our imagination is probably as godlike as anything about us could possibly be. And the idea that what really makes a God or a God consciousness the greatest power I was taught was the ability to create. I mean, God, it's all about the whole Genesis. It's, God created the world and all that goes with it. And there are references, not only biblical, but in other religions, that frequently come back and say that we have godlike qualities in our ability to create, our imagination and creative ability. So that one was pretty easy to accept. So there's nothing we can't create or conceive. What about believe? So if we can conceive virtually anything, is there anything we can't believe? Well, I sat next to a flat earther on a plane one time for about 4 hours, and I was astonished at the interesting way that she went about explaining her belief system in the flat earth, and how on earth we could all still believe that the earth is round and all of these other things. And as much as my common sense kept saying, wow, this girl is just whack. I couldn't help but be impressed by the depth of her belief in something that seemed to me unconscionable, just inconceivable. But clearly, there's nothing we can't believe.
It's a
Look
great
at all
example.
look at the conspiracy theories going. And I won't go into any detail. We don't need to get political here, but I can tell you, I hear some pretty amazing stories. I go, you got to be kidding me. So anything we can conceive and believe. So we can conceive anything, we can believe anything. So all that was left was, so that means we can achieve anything. And this is how I was raised. I just was taught that that was just the way that was just a reality. And over time, well, she gave me psycho-cybernetics when I was 12 and Think and Grow Rich. And after that, I was just hooked. I couldn't get enough of this, the whole human condition. And I just was fascinated not only by the human, the anatomy of the brain, but the human mind. And so I just kind of took it from there and started to refine. That was one of countless things that she taught me. I remember since I was 5 years old, she had this thing. It was anytime you'd make a statement that was a negative in any form, she'd say, cancel, cancel, thoughts are things. Well, we had no idea what that meant at the age of 5. But by the time I was 12, that was just a common understanding. Thoughts are things. So be careful what you say, be careful what you think and what you, what you look for. Because Goethe, we see what we're looking for. So make sure you're looking for things that bring you joy and pleasure and happiness and so on. And so anyhow, long story short, I started to realize that this concept didn't need to be refined. Anything we can conceive and believe. The idea was we can be or do anything. We just can't be or do everything. There needed to be a limitation because there are resources are still to some degree, and a resource is anything you have that will help you get or be or do whatever it is that you want, your end game. So it can be time, connections, money, health, knowledge, all of these things. And so the only place where I could find any kind of limitation was on resources. We don't yet know how to live forever, for example. So, I mean, my bucket list is like 5 million pages long. It's quite literally 200 and some pages. And so it's valuable to know that, because if you can achieve, there are only so many amazing things that we can accomplish during our lifetime, then it's important to prioritize them, put them in order, because what if you only get to 13 of them? What if you get to 300 or you get to 3? Make sure that they're the ones where you can look back and say, hey, I'm good with that. So that's the idea of the limitless concept, is not to be taken too literally, because of course you could say, well, there are certain limitations of physics and so on. And I could say, okay, let's just put it this way. We are damn near virtually limitless. And how about if we just live our lives as though we're limitless, because nothing bad will come of doing that. So hopefully that long answer to your very short question will get things started.
That was beautiful. What a just magnificent upbringing. Your mother seems like a wonderful, enlightened being for you, and she's gifted us with you now to pass along this incredible legacy.
I love that.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, aren't we?
So maybe like for those of us who did not have an enlightened mother and didn't get the early start, I tell a lot of my clients, you can have any life that you want, but it's going to cost you your old life.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
That's sort of like one of those limitations. Like, we can't have all the lives. So there's going to be one, but it's going to cost you who you used to be and who you thought you were, but you can become whoever you want. But I think this is where a lot of people run into some of the strongest resistance, where it's like, as soon as you start to bring up the idea of a limitless life, they want to start clinging to their limitations and defending their limitations. So like, how do we help people kind of drop those limitations and let
my gosh,
they thought they were?
Oh, great. Wonderful question. The perfect metaphor for that is climbing the ladder. Where do you want to be? You want to stand on the ground? That's fine. You can climb up 1 or 2 rungs. But if you want to get to the top of that building, you want to climb up on that roof, you cannot reach the 20th rung of that ladder without letting go of the rungs in the bottom. So it's once you understand that you're releasing your current life belief system, thoughts, stories for better ones, it's easier to do. And so what I love to teach is your reality is pretty much just the stories and beliefs that you accept.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I say your reality because although there is technically a physical reality, we cannot experience it directly. When I say we, that means our individual consciousness. It's like in the old days, single lens reflex cameras, they came with a lens, interchangeable lenses. If you took the lens off and you just looked through the camera without a lens, it was just blurry. That's what reality is for us. We can't see it without first putting on a lens. It's the lens that brings it into focus. What everybody's missing is that it's all about the lens. The lens, the mindset, the perceptions. It's the beliefs and stories. That's the lens. If, for example, you take a spider and I look at that spider through a zoom lens, let's say the spider's 5 feet away and it's about quarter of an inch. And I look at it through a zoom lens, it's going to look as big as a house. And it's going to be terrifying. And it's going to look like it is 1 inch from my face. And my body is going to react to this horrible, terrifying threat as if it's absolutely real, because that's all my subconscious knows. Subconscious doesn't determine anything. It just accepts whatever's fed into it. And so it sees this and it will trigger my amygdala and I'll go into fight or flight. And I'll have all these reactions to a 1/4 inch spider that's 5 feet away because I'm looking at it through a lens that makes it look like something else. But if I look at that same spider through a wide angle lens, it'll be a tiny speck 20 feet away. And my body won't react at all. I look at it, I'm like, I don't even hardly know what that is. Oh, it's a teeny little spider way away, I'm safe. In reality, the physical reality, it's a 1/4 inch spider 5 feet away. But because I can't see it without the lens, I will never know what it truly is. So we have math and certain forms of science and physics and quantum physics and so on, quantum mechanics, that help us see things without the lens. But even then, we are looking at the data through a lens. So even when we look at the proof and the evidence, we're still looking through a lens. So that's why it's easier to understand that so if we can't see true reality for what it is, then our entire lives are relegated to our version of reality, the stories and beliefs. And so what I do is it's pretty simple. As I say, well, let's just take them apart. The old question everything, classic Einstein. Question every story, question every belief. Am I absolutely positive? Is it possible that there could be an opposite version of this story, of this belief? And of course, we see it everywhere. Look how polarized the United States is. The different beliefs, and they're adamant, and both sides just certain that they're right. And of course, I'm in the middle. I'm the ultimate definition of a centrist, because I'm looking at it going, well, you know what? That's a really good idea, but that looks stupid. That's a good idea, but I don't know about that one. I'm just looking, but I'm questioning every aspect of everything. The second step is, as you're questioning the stories and beliefs, ask yourself, does this serve me? Does this story serve me? Or does this belief serve me? And serve me means, does it improve my life or the lives of those around me? Is it somehow adding some positive element to my life or the lives of those around me? If it serves me, I'm going to look for more proof. Back to Goethe, and I'm going to find it. And I'm going to really build on that story and build on those beliefs, because they make my life better. They give me greater peace, greater pleasure, enjoyment, excitement, and so on. If it doesn't serve me, then I'm going to look for proof. I'm going to poke holes in it. I'm going to poke holes in that belief system, poke holes in those stories, because they're not serving me. And when we poke holes in them, that's the question everything, usually we'll find them. If you just simply say, pretend that you are the opposite, that you're somebody who believes the exact opposite. Now let's look at it from their perspective, and what can you see? And from the opposite, you start to go, oh, wow, it is possible that this version may be more right than the version I have. And since we don't know which version is absolutely right for sure, which story, which belief, I'm just going to pick the one that serves me best, the one that brings the greatest positive impact to my life. And when people say, so you're just telling me, pick whatever stories and beliefs that best serve you, you're just telling me to live in a fantasy world. And then I smile and go, well, you already do. That's the whole point.
Yes.
It's just that you don't realize you're living in a fantasy world. It's a fantasy world made up of the lenses that you have attached to your mind, the mindset that in which you're living. That's your world, but it's a fantasy world that you've created. Of course, 99.9% of us did not intentionally create it. It's a haphazard, or the habits that run our life. I call them haphazard habits. They just formed, or they were given to us, passed along by our parents, teachers, the media. Our subconscious is just taking it all in, going, oh, okay. So I guess this is how it is. And then we go to bed at night and have nightmares because our subconscious is just accepting all these horror stories, and we accept them on the conscious level. And so imagine getting to a place in your life where you say, you know what, I'm going to break down every story and every belief in my life. And I'm going to replace, because you can't just eliminate a thought or eliminate a story or eliminate a belief. You have to replace it with one, just like a habit. You can't just say, I'm going to stop this habit. Those are the folks who fail miserably at changing their behavior. It's the ones who replace habits that don't serve them with habits that do, that end up having, of course, the great results. So I'll stop at that for a moment and let you carry on.
That was amazing. Yeah, perfect answer.
I love it. We get guests on frequently, but that I could just listen to. I'm always enthralled with it. So Mark, you're certainly one of them. You're speaking our language, and I love it because a lot of the terminology that you're using is very similar to ours. But as you're describing, this lens, which I love the visual that you've given us with a camera. That's such a great kind of analogy.
I'm a filmmaker, so as a filmmaker, that just seemed like an obvious metaphor.
But that's typically, Dan and I have talked about, that's our ego. It's our personality. As Joe Dispenza so beautifully says, our personality creates our personal reality. It's the filter which we view life through. So it's beautifully, but I do kind of want to jump into this subconscious patterns that dictate our lives and diving just a little bit deeper into that, because something that I've really tried to be cognizant of as I speak about this, not only on the show, but with people, I never want people to feel they're a victim to life. But so many people do, as you can imagine. There is a
victim mindset,
victim mentality, yes, that goes around. So let's kind of jump into that. And I don't want anybody to feel we're blaming the circumstances of one's lives that they are maybe either unfortunately in or fortunately in. So yes, let's kind of break down what it means to have these subconscious patterns that we really inherit. We're programmed with them. We see them. It's an energy that's taken on by our parents, our community, religious, schooling, the media, how many movies and books, romantic or scary, they're all around us.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a lot. There's a lot to all of that.
A lifetime as it is.
Yeah. What I love to explain is that, and it's a controversial topic, but once they get the point that I'm making, the controversy pretty well dies out, which is when I say we don't really have true free will, not in the way we think we do. Human beings, we're not well, obviously we're all different. We all see the world through all these different lenses and so on. The way we react or respond to any given stimuli isn't based on our conscious evaluations and choices. It's based on all of the subconscious programs that are already in place. So it's so it's basically, if you want to change a certain behavior, for example, you don't just decide I'm going to change it and use willpower. We already know, I mean, most people don't realize why it's not working, and it's because willpower is not that powerful. An example of willpower is, so I love ice cream.
Me too.
I can, who doesn't? It's fat and sugar. I mean, hello. I can walk past an ice cream shop. Let's say I'm in walking down through some little downtown village, and they've got ice cream shops around, and I can walk past one and use willpower to get past it. But if I'm with somebody who says, I want some ice cream, I really want some ice cream, and I go, fine, I'm not getting any. And I walk inside of that ice cream shop, and I stand there looking at all those selections, smelling the vanilla cones, those waffle cones. Oh my God, right? I'm going to walk out of there with an ice cream, because willpower is not that really, it's not reliable. It'll get us past little things, but if you're counting on it, you're going to probably end up not getting the results that you were hoping for. And so, in fact, the last book I ever wrote was called Self-Help Me, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. And it's, and that's one of the things I say is what you need to do is, if you want to change your behavior, you change the mechanism that's driving your behavior. The mechanism are the stories and beliefs, the programs that we've been conditioned to accept. And so it's kind of like when you drive a car, and let's say you're driving 50 miles an hour, and all of a sudden a deer runs out in the middle of the street, and you stop your car. Did you stop your car? And so that you don't get caught up in this, paradox, the answer is no, you didn't stop your car. You pushed on a little thing called a brake pedal. The brake pedal then told all sorts of elements in your car what to do, and it caused calipers to lock onto a disc, and it caused and all these things happen, and they are what stopped your car. You cannot stop a 3,000-pound car moving 50 miles an hour. No human being on earth. I don't care if you're Fred Flintstone. You can't drop your feet to the ground and stop the car. What you did was you told the brakes to stop the car. So this is actually how we take control of our lives, is I decide, well, what kind of a life do I want to lead? Do I want to be healthy and fit? I mean, you're obviously very healthy and fit. It's important to you. And I guarantee you, you can't get to be that level of health and fitness and retain it on willpower alone. You changed your mindset. You have a health and fitness mindset. You're looking through a lens that says, this is important. This is tantamount. This is not an option. This isn't something I do sometimes if I feel like it. Sometimes this is not a hobby. This is a part of who I am. These are the things, the foods I eat. These are the foods I eat. I either don't eat or eat on a very limited basis. This is the amount of calories that I burn. And if you're like me and you actually don't enjoy working out, and I've got, I got my weights and all my other stuff, but I don't actually enjoy it. But I love to compete. Love it. I just can't get enough. I've been an athlete all my life, an elite athlete in several fields. And so what I've learned was I've got to always be somehow involved in some kind of competitive sport. It was more recently, it was hockey up until I was almost 60. And then I broke my back and now my foot just does that. And so it's like, okay, my skate falls off. I can't very well skate on one foot. And so I replaced it with, of all things, pickleball.
Okay. Nice.
I kept trying to find, because I've had 19 surgeries and 11 had been orthopedic surgeries from sports injuries. Wow. So my neck is fused, my back, 4 different back surgeries, my knee, artificial knees, and so on. And so I thought, okay, pickleball. That's my thing. Nice. Well, and the bottom line is, when I play, so I'll either play, depending on my travel schedule, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, or I'll play 3 hours a day every other day. So I get in a minimum of 10 hours a week, and I play very aggressively. So I'm running, sprinting back and forth, jumping up and down and moving. Well, that's because I have a mindset, a health and fitness mindset that says exercising and moving my body that's not an option. I will do it. It's just a question of finding something that doesn't require willpower. Well, heck, I love to play. In fact, I brought my paddle to Portland, Maine, and I went and found some pickup games, and I was playing out there. So that once again is I decided I want to be healthy and fit, and so how can I make it so that this is automatic for me? I know I will start getting involved in competitive sports that I love to play, and the outcome will take care of itself.
Yeah.
See, the subconscious, it doesn't think. The subconscious simply accepts whatever programs are coming. Its job is to make the things that we tell it are so, is to make it so. If I tell it that I am that I'm a loser and that nothing I do will ever turn out, my subconscious will help make sure that happens. It will undermine things. It will do things to thwart my my efforts. If I tell it that I am a persistent problem solver and I solve everything, no matter what happens, I will always find a solution because that's who I am. My subconscious will assume, oh, well, I guess that's true. And so it will, because the subconscious doesn't sleep 24/7, whatever that problem is, it's going to go to work on it. And it will not quit until it finds viable solutions. That's when they say your mind, it keeps working even at night. If you've got challenges on your hands, go ahead, make sure that you make a conscious decision, right? That I am going to find a solution to this. And you can keep actively, consciously searching, but your subconscious is even better at it, and it'll just take off. And then all of a sudden you're like, Eureka, I got it. I know what to do. Well, so I'll stop at that for a moment, and we can.
No, I love
I
it.
love that. I think it's such an important, I guess, like lesson to learn, that because so many people, I think, want to talk about like the idea of like creating your own life, and they're like, well, I can't create my life, but they are. They're just creating from a place of lack and scarcity and fear.
Yes.
And the subconscious is bringing them all the things. Oh, you can't control your life. Yeah, well, here's another surprise. And it's the same mechanism playing out. It's just not understanding the patterns. Where like you had such a great example. You're somebody who is going to find a way to compete. So even after 18 surgeries, you found pickleball, and there's an opportunity for you to keep competing and keep doing the thing you want to do because you created that.
Yeah, and even to the extent that I blew out my shoulder, ended up having to have my shoulder rebuilt, and I was in a sling for the most part for nearly 6 months, in and out of this sling because it was not healing properly. So, but I already have the mindset in place that says, failure is not an option. Not exercising, that's not an option. So my subconscious immedately started just letting all these possibilities sink in. And next thing I know, I'm on the internet looking at left-handed pickleball, at changing, can you change from being right-handed to left, and the plasticity of the human brain and how malleable is it, and how many people have actually successfully gone from being right-handed to left-handed. And I see all of this wonderful evidence, which gives me even greater impetus to try it out. And I start playing left-handed. By the end of that 6 months, I was 80% as good as my right hand. And so what happened is I didn't stop playing. I just played with a sling, left-handed. I'd get out there with my sling. I started playing a couple of weeks after my total knee replacement, but I had a big brace on my leg and it was straight. And so I would return the ball with big lobs, so I had time to walk to the net, and then I'd sit there and do my quick dinks, which was something I could do even though I couldn't bend my leg. So my brain just was automatically looking for workarounds. And that's the beauty of the subconscious, is it will find the solutions that you're looking for, whether it's you're searching for a new job or a career or ways to overcome challenges or issues. The subconscious is just happy to just grind out the possibilities until you start to see, which, by the way, there are, of course, most folks in this field have heard about The Secret, the movie, the book, and so I worked with some of the folks on The Secret, coached some of the folks on The Secret, but would not have been a part of it because I knew it was coming out long before even the book came out. Because I work with these folks. We all, do seminars together and stuff.
Sure.
And I said, I can't do the law of attraction thing. And they were like, oh, what are you talking about? And I said, number one, people misunderstand it. They think if you put a poster of, Elon Musk on your ceiling, you're going to wake up a billionaire some morning. And I thought that's not how it works. Number two, I don't teach the law of attraction. What I teach is the law of awareness. The difference is this: in the movie, they are saying basically, if you really focus on it, think about it, you'll attract it from out of the ether, from somewhere on the other side of the planet or wherever, from Mercury or Mars. Well, what's actually happening is, if you're familiar with a thing called the reticular activating system.
Yes.
It's a very simple part of the human brain that has wonderful value. It helps. It's why somebody can live next door to an airport or a train track and not hear it, because the brain is constantly processing information, especially now. So much information, it can't process all of that, much less remember it and store it and set it up for recall. And so it's constantly it's filtering what to get rid of, what's important and what isn't important. And once it decides something isn't important, which, by the way, how does it decide that? You tell your subconscious this isn't important. And so it then says, okay. And so it triggers the reticular activating system, which makes it so you can't hear it anymore. Your brain doesn't have to process the sounds of a jet engine or the sounds of, if you have a baby who's crying, there's different cries. Do you have kids?
No, we don't. We have a dog.
You do.
He makes funny noises.
Yeah, and so let's take it. Yeah, so to a more sophisticated level, children, babies, they have about 20 different cries.
Sure.
There's just the whiny, uncomfortable cry, and then there's I fell out of the crib and I hit my head on a rock, screeching sound, and your brain starts to identify these sounds after a while, and some of those sounds it can't hear anymore. When you ever been, if you don't have kids and you've seen this, so you're at a restaurant and there's a family just, over sitting near you and they're so noisy and these kids are like, and they're making all this noise. And you look over, looking at the parents like, when are they going to shut these kids up? The parents are just talking. They're just da-da-da-da-da. They can't hear the kids because their brains have shut off the sound children make when they're just jabbering and just playing and just, even if they're having little spats. That goes on so much that the brain just shuts it off. Those parents are not being rude. They literally are unaware of the commotion these kids are making because they've turned that off. So the good news about the reticular activating system is it keeps us from having to endure certain forms of discomfort and so on. Another word for this is habituation. When we're exposed to certain stimulus for a certain period of time, we habituate to it. It becomes just it goes into the backdrop, like in Matrix, the code that's constantly running. And so once we get used to it, we not only stop being truly, fully aware of it, we stop appreciating it. For example, couples. I tell them all the time, I tell all my clients, I say, when you get to a point where the two of you are starting to be a little snarky with each other and you kind of, it doesn't take much to trigger the other one and you're just starting to kind of snap at each other and being impatient, there's a certain point where what's happened is you've habituated to the relationship and now you're taking each other for granted. It's human nature. When was the last time you woke up in the morning and got out of bed and said, oh, thank God for gravity?
Yeah.
Right? Believe me, gravity's really valuable. And without gravity, I can't tell you how many horrible things would happen in our lives. Not to mention that we'd all just drift off the planet and there'd be nobody here. And same thing with air. Oh my gosh, there was oxygen in the air. Hey, how cool, lucky me. We take things for granted once we have access to them over a period. And so this entitlement thing is just a part of habituation. Once we if you woke up and there was no oxygen in your room, you'd be a little upset.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, I tell my like couples, I say, when that starts to happen, take a break. Girls' night out, guys' weekend on the golf course, up north, whatever it is, take little breaks from each other. Super healthy, because that takes us from that overstimulation, habituation, where we just start taking each other for granted, and it pulls it apart. And all of a sudden you're like, well, I miss you. And then we get to reset that appreciation vector. And you could do that with everything, because you can habituate to anything that you're overly exposed to. Your house, your car, you get this beautiful brand new home, and it's like, oh, you're walking around and, oh, I just love our house. And before you know it, you're like going, oh, that air conditioner is too noisy and the door sticks, and damn, this house is driving me crazy. Same wonderful house, but you have stopped appreciating the good things, which offset the negative things. And now you're just experiencing that. So I think I drifted a little bit. I'm going to let you bring me back to your original question.
No, I feel like
I think that was a great answer.
Yeah, I feel like I can't even remember what you were asking him.
I got a little lost too.
But like in a good sense.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We were talking about like the subconscious patterns.
Yes.
And how
Oh, yeah.
the reticular activating system.
Yeah, you were starting to talk about The Secret and the law of attraction. And
Oh,
how
yes,
that
yeah.
work.
So the law of awareness. So what I teach is that it's there. It's already there. You didn't attract it. It's already there. All those wonderful things have been there all along, but your reticular activating system had kicked in. If you don't tell your subconscious that this is important, it's just going to ignore those things. So the law, what they're calling the law of attraction, is really you saying to your subconscious, this is important to me. And so this has been there all along. And suddenly your subconscious starts noticing, oh, here's this, here's that. It's like the person who says, I started a new job or a new company, and the very next day I got on a plane and I'm sitting next to a guy, and he knew a whole bunch of people in my field, and he referred me to them. Isn't that an amazing coincidence? What tremendous synchronicity. Well, actually, if you hadn't started that company and you weren't thinking about that product launch, and you sat next to the same guy, you either would have never spoken to him, or when you did, you'd have simply talked about the weather, and the topic would have never come up, and therefore he would have never given you these leads. It's not a coincidence. It's that your subconscious worked this new product launch into the conversation, which generated this useful feedback. So this is where it's so critical so that's the law of awareness, is become aware. Well, what should I become aware of? Well, there's the $1 million question. What do you want? What do you want your life to look like? I love to teach reverse engineering. I'm here. This is where I want to be. And, what gets measured gets done. So I'm going to give it a timeline. I'd like to be in this area, within this period of time. And at that point, my subconscious, now it's going to start working. Okay, how can I, one of the 3 most powerful questions in the world, especially in the field of problem solving, one of them is, what's great about this? No matter what horrible things happen, well, but what's great about it? Because we're so busy going, why me? This sucks. What is great about it? There's always something. Find it. That's an opportunity mindset. How can we? That's another powerful, because it's assuming that it's possible. I didn't say can we. I said how can we? And the moment you assume it's possible, again, the subconscious, if you say how can we, or if you just say can we, subconscious is going to start trying to find out. I don't know. Can we? It's going to spend all its time trying to find out if it's possible. When you say how can we, it skip that step. It'll just go right to looking for solutions. And then the third one in that category is, well, then what can we do? They say, you can't do this, this, or that. Okay, fine, whatever. What can we do? It's always moving forward with the assumption that everything and anything is possible. That's the limitless mindset again.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, it's the very powerful tools. And so, so with the law of awareness is, once I know this is where I want to be, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and where I am, that's the first thing I do in my course is know thyself. The oldest philosophy known to man. It's like 5,000 years
Absolutely.
old. They've been putting know thyself over the pyramid doors, Imhotep, the Egyptian priest, and so on. And so I know who I am. I know where I am. I know where I want to go. What's left is now I need to figure out how I'm going to get there. Well, the subconscious is brilliant at that. So it starts looking for opportunities. And you consciously can say, okay, so in order to be here in 5 years, where do I need to be in 2.5 years? And where do I need to be in 1 year, and 6 months, and 3 months? And now I'm down to this 3-month thing. Now it's real, because that's right in front of me. And so the reverse engineering has said to me, these are the things that need to take place in order to end up here. All the while, the subconscious is just going, okay, all right, whatever you want, I'll start looking for it. So go ahead.
Yes, no, I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah, I love that, because it does bring in the idea of like taking meaningful action and taking actions toward your goal, rather than a lot of people, when you talk about the law of attraction, can get really caught up on, I'm just going to sit here and think about it. I'm going to wish for it. And then your subconscious is actually imagining or creating a scenario where you have to wish for it, and you don't have it, rather than using the subconscious to your benefit. Like you had mentioned psycho-cybernetics in the beginning, like that's literally is like setting this intention and letting the subconscious figure out the how, but then acting on that and following those steps.
Oh yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. The action part is, they've done studies that people who spend too much time thinking about the end game, too focused on the outcome and imagining it, and they just close their eyes and they're driving around in their Lamborghini, pulling up to the mansion, and they're just seeing it and enjoying it. They actually, if you're not careful, you can reach a point where you will not actually do the work to get there, because you're already getting the dopamine release. You're getting the benefits of achieving it without actually ever getting there. And so the brain just like, well, I'm already feeling it. I don't need to do that work. Now that can be wonderful too, if you're stuck in prison, right? If there are things that you can't take action, right? If I had ALS or something, right? There's a point where it'd be like, well, okay, so we live in the mind, which means that if I really want to just feel good all the time, I could do it just sitting in a lazy boy. I know how to do that. But my life model dictates that, especially from everything I've studied, that you can't find true fulfillment, because it's not just about happiness, it's fulfillment. It's without leading a meaningful life. And so if I don't take action, then I'm just going to be in my own little world, enjoying my own little thing, and I will have absolutely no impact on the world. And those are not the happiest people. Those are certainly not the most fulfilled individuals. The studies come back. If you really want to lead a happier, more meaningful and fulfilling life, you've got to get out there and you got to make a difference, which is what we're doing right now. This thing that we're doing, I don't get paid for podcasts. I just sit here and do this because it's part of what makes my life so fulfilling, knowing that these ideas aren't going to die with me, that somebody out there's life is going to be changed, right? And so that action element, I get around the part where you just simply get used to just thinking about it, and that feels fine. By doing the deconstruction is because it keeps on saying, but what do I need to do to make that happen? Good point. Action is obviously the biggest problem I had with the law of attraction is we're not teaching you've got to take action. Retrospectively, they've come back because they realized the error of that, and now they're saying after the fact, well, you have to do something about it, but it's almost like an afterthought. I'm going, no, that is every bit as important as deciding what is deciding how.
I think kind of it's almost like a prong. Your subconscious patterns are really dictating your conscious thoughts, which are then helping you act in a way. And when I say that, I mean, this could go in either direction. It could go towards maybe perhaps a life that you're not wanting to live, or you're on the trajectory of creating and, working to that beautiful highest expression of yourself. And I absolutely just love that you pose yourself as what you're teaching is truly awareness, because Dan and I always talk about this, like, how do you make someone become aware when they already think that they are? That's been one of the things that has been challenging for us in coaching people. Like, people think they know what's going on, and to some degree they do, but they're so unaware of the subconscious patterns and thoughts until they become the observer of them. Exactly like we're talking, observer awareness. It's can be synonymous, and if you have a different definition, please give that. But the second that you are aware of your thought, you're conscious. That's it. You've literally become consciously aware of that thought. And then you can begin to ask yourself, is this true? Do I actually believe this? Like, where is this thought coming from? Is it mine? Is it my parents? And if it's not, then you can begin training or practicing a new belief system, a new thought pattern that's going to create, the new neural pathways in your brain to hopefully lead you down a more conscious way of thinking, which becomes beliefs within repetition.
Yeah, everything you've just said, yes, and yes.
Okay, because this is what Dan and I talk about, and it makes sense to us, but having yourself as just this expert and world-renowned like author, and you've done this so much, it's validating to at least understand, like, okay, I'm not crazy, because talking to some other people, family, friends, they're like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh,
Dan gets me.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I teach there's the difference between empowerment and enlightenment.
Oh, okay.
Empowerment, of course, being the one that everybody, everybody's empowered this, empowered that. And there's nothing wrong with empowerment. My first organization started as the Center for Empowerment, until I started to realize how limiting empowerment actually was, because I finally figured out what empowerment really is. It's the ability to impact or influence the world around you. And that's a good thing. That's powerful to be able to change laws and protect innocent victims. And you can get out there and do things in the world. Of course, it is the world around us, so you can't control it. You can influence it, you can impact it, but you can't control it. Can't control the weather, you can't control somebody else's feelings and behavior and so on. Well, and so empowerment is valuable, but enlightenment is the ability to impact and influence the world within. So this is the world around you, which is nice to have, but the world within, that's 99% of your life. So empowerment, they're teaching people how to have power and influence over like 1% of what matters most, where enlightenment is, that's the real game.
Yeah.
And so
yes.
Not only is that where everything is really happening, is the world within, the lenses and so on, but it's the only thing you can control. I can't control anything outside of myself, but I can control my stories and my beliefs. Now, it takes conscious effort, because again, like you said, where did those stories and beliefs come from? Well, they started at such a young age, we just accepted them. That's where question everything comes in. It's okay, let's go back to the most fundamental beliefs you have. And they can involve your political affiliations, your religious aspirations, your self-image, if you're in a victim state, a victim mindset, somewhere in there, did you decide that your life really sucks and that nobody ever gives you a break? God has it in for you. Did somebody say that to you and you accepted it? Of course, I love to say, listen, if you believe in God as being this a being that is capable of both positive and negative outcomes, and if you believe that God is truly omnipotent, then the most powerful being in the universe, if that being had it in for you, believe me, you wouldn't wonder or think, you'd know, because you'd sprout horns out of the back of your head and your arms would fall off and your nose would disintegrate. I mean, God could do a hell of a lot more than just make it so that you miss your flight. It's not,
It's just a little bit of psychological warfare from God.
That's beautiful. It's an example. That's exactly, and I feel like to come literally almost full circle, as you beautifully put before, and I meant to touch upon it, a couple things actually. Know thyself. It's exact like that, really, in a nutshell, that's what we're describing at the most basic sense. Who am I? Who is Dan? Who is Mark? Who are you? And when you feel and truly understand that at the deepest level, then you're able to create consciously what you'd like the manifest world to be. And I'm so glad that you pointed out, and I can't believe that neither of us pointed that it's an inner job. This is all inside of us. Yes, how much of our energy is spent trying to change the circumstances and the things that are happening outside, not truly understanding that the power lies within. It is all within us. So I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you brought that
Oh
up.
yeah. And when you get good, when you really learn how to look at yourself without judgment,
Yes.
because it's hard for us to see ourselves as who we really are, because who we really are is very is a mixed bag of tricks. We've got our strengths and we've got our weaknesses, every one of us, physically and emotionally, mentally. And so the very second thing after that is, I say, know thyself. The next step too is accept thyself. Because if you can't accept yourself, you can't truly know yourself, because you've got to be able to say, so this is who I really am. Here's my strengths. Here's my so-called weaknesses. These are the things that I'm proud of. These are the things that, oh, if I had it to do over again, maybe I wouldn't go that path. This is all of it. And so now I really can see who I am, not just who I wish I were. And why is it important to know who you are now? It's because you have to have a baseline. It's like, okay, so what am I starting with? What do I have to work with here? And being able to say, these are my weaknesses without judgment, without guilt or shame or any of that, allows us to now step back and go, okay, what if I didn't give it a value? These are just all sorts of things about myself. These are things that I now know. For instance, I have ADHD, I've got OCD. I mean, I've got all sorts of these letters flying around. And so is that good or bad? I don't really care what anyone else thinks. What I want to know is that good or bad for me? What's great about having OCD? Well, how can I use OCD to my advantage? Maybe OCD makes it hard for me to do this, but what can I do? So those three things I put in. And so I not only manage my OCD, I use it. Probably every film award I ever won was because of my OCD. When everybody else says, okay, it's good, let's go home, I say, no, we can do better. I know we can do this. Let's just shoot it one more time, one more take. Let's just spend a little more time cutting. I know that we can cut this thing a little tighter. And that OCD, where I used to think before I knew I had OCD, I just thought everybody else just didn't give a damn. And it's like, you guys just don't care. You need to care more about this thing. And they were all looking at me like, well, you're neurotic. You need to let go. So eventually I found that happy place in the middle where I could let go. See, having OCD is only a problem when you can't do anything with it. If you can use it to do things better, to put in greater effort, but at the same time, you need to be able to say, when you're at the doctor's office and the picture's hanging crookedly, you need to be able to look and say, I'm safe, everything's okay, the world is still working, the world will not come to an end, I don't need to fix that picture. Just look away. Everything's fine, because I have visual OCD is the worst part for me. And I see crooked pictures, I used to have to get up and go fix it until I was able to say, everything's okay, we don't need to fix that, just leave it be. It'll give somebody else something interesting to do. The next OCD person will get a little exercise when they go trying to straighten all the pictures. Of course, putting them up in my house, I have to bring in a professional, because I can't get them all lined up exactly the way, no matter what I do, one is off by a quarter of an inch. It's like, somebody else. So see, I know myself. So I know that if I'm going to hang 5 pictures side by side, I need to bring somebody else in to do that, because I know that I'm not skilled enough to create the look that I have in mind. And I'm okay with that, because this is the most important part of accepting myself. I'm not perfect. No one is. and that's okay. I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances, and that's enough. I'm doing the best I can. Every day I get up and do the best I can. Some days some days are, I get more done than others. Some days I feel more effective than others, and that's okay. When we keep saying to ourselves, wait a minute, so nobody's perfect. 8 billion people, there's not one perfect person on this planet, not to the best of my knowledge. You can even look at, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Jesus, and even in their historical records, there'll be things that they did that they were like going, well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have tipped over all the tables in the, in the, whatever the church was. I can't remember what. Anyhow, maybe there's a couple of things I could have done a little bit differently. But we certainly know that and oh, by the way, even if, let's say, Jesus is perfect, I would say, okay, you mean Jesus like Son of God? Like God incarnate? Okay, well, fine. Let him be perfect. What's your point? In the history of all human civilization, you got one? Chances are nobody else is perfect. And oh, by the way, if we're supposed to be perfect and there's a sentient being out there deciding how we're going to turn out, and this is the most powerful being in the universe, if we're supposed to be perfect, we would be, because this being could create anything it wanted. So apparently we're not only not perfect, we're not supposed to be. So I started trying to look at what is it about that makes it, what's great about that? And I remembered when I was a little kid, I was helping my mom bake cookies. And cookies are supposed to be sweet. And we're making cookies, and she put salt in there. And I'm like, ew. She goes, no, you need to put a little salt in there. I go, why? And she goes, well, you will understand when you get older. It's called savory. It actually will give the food more flavor. The other flavors will explode. It makes it taste better, even though it's supposed to be sweet. A little bit of salt makes it even better. Well, that's our imperfections. That is the thing about each of us that makes us unique. It's the imperfections. Because if you think about it, perfect. Well, let's say a perfect being. Okay, let's say a perfect male specimen. So let's say, because different sexes, so perfect male, perfect female. Whatever the perfect male is, once you find perfect, well, then any other male that's created, if it's perfect, is going to be identical. Because perfect there's only one version of perfect. So this is perfect. So even if we could be perfect, we'd all be identical. Well, what fun is that, right? Yeah. So now you actually start to celebrate your imperfections. And you start to say, you know what? My OCD and my ADHD, hello, you guys couldn't tell I had ADHD, did you? I'm like, without that, who would I be? I mean, I like having those interesting elements. The ADHD, I've got a whole wall of computer screens all over the place, and I'm looking at them, and I'm working on this for 20 minutes, and then I go over here and over here. I never have a boring moment of my day, and that's ADHD is driving that. But because I know myself, I know I got about a 20-minute window for hyper focus. So I know that I'm not gonna beat myself up when I get to a certain point and I just want to go take a nap because I'm like, oh God, I just change to a different thing. At some point, I'll just go put on my shorts and head to the pickleball court. Just say, you know what, I'm going to go hit some balls for a while. I'll come back later and finish this up. I'm not a procrastinator. I just know that I have windows of productivity that I'll take advantage of, and certain windows where I'm just not very productive. My circadian rhythms are off, my energy level. See, that's know myself. I don't work 20 hours a day. But the hours I work are really, really productive because I work the hours when I am at my best. And the hours when I'm not, those are the hours that somebody else would say, well, you're just goofing off. I'll go, yeah, but I would have been doing nothing but staring at a computer and drooling if I didn't do this because my brain's done. It's just shut off. So I really love it when people finally say, so this is the salt. This is what makes me unique and interesting and different. And that's okay. So somebody could come up to me and critique me. And by the way, I always love to say all feedback is good. There's no such thing as positive feedback and negative feedback. I say, no, just call it constructive feedback. It's all constructive. Even when they tell you something you don't want to hear, that's constructive feedback. And feedback is so critical. Do you know all of our senses? They're here for that sole purpose. Our eyesight, taste, touch, smell, all hearing, it's all to give us feedback So we know what to do next. Should I, there's a grizzly bear running at me. I can see it. I hear him growling. I think I should run. So, and oh, by the way, that would be something you call negative feedback. I'm out trying to pick berries and there's a grizzly bear. I don't want that kind of feedback. Well, the alternative is you get eaten.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, you do. Constructive feedback, even when it's painful, is useful and it's helpful. And so I always tell people, solicit it, get their feedback. Now they may think they're giving you feedback about what's broken or wrong with you. To me, I'm not hearing that. I'm just getting interesting information. I go, oh, okay. So I was doing this too much or doing that too much during that seminar or whatever. Thank you so much for letting me know that that's how it landed. Now I'm not here because I like standing on a stage. I'm here because I want to make a difference. So how can I use what you've just told me to make a more profound impact, have a more profound impact on the next audience? And everything makes me better, whether I like hearing it or not. And so again, that accept thyself is so much easier to hear constructive feedback when you say, like if someone walks up and they and they say, you're not a very good parallel parker. And I smile and go, okay, thanks for the feedback. What's your point?
Yeah.
If you're thinking I'm going to go, oh, I'm so sorry. I know I'm embarrassed. I'm a lousy driver, whatever. That doesn't occur to me. What occurs to me is, so you shared that for a reason. What was your point? Because you're not parking there. So why do you care what kind of a parker I am? But I'm not being defensive. I'm just like going, okay. In fact, that's the whole point is I don't get defensive. I could be in the middle of, political debates. When I saw that, like when Biden and Trump started going at each other, and one of them brought up golf, what kind of a golfer he was. And the other one was talking about, well, I'm a better golfer. And I'm watching their egos go at it. And they're on this international stage where the whole world weighs in the balance, and they're arguing over which one of them is the better golfer.
It's comical.
Like, okay, got it. So imagine if one of them, let's say Biden, his ego was not engaged. He was not in a defensive posture, and Trump had made comments about his golf. And Biden said, what's your point? I'm not running for the PGA. I'm here I'm running for president, not the PGA. So what's your point? Okay, yeah. Okay, you're a better golfer. What's your point? and you get to skip all the other stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So when you can see, it doesn't matter whether I'm a great golfer or not. I don't have a sponsor. I'm not getting paid to golf. I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah.
So
no, I love that. I feel like that was such a great example. And I feel like all that you shared there was just beautiful in the power that we have as beings to change and use whatever we have, whether it be ADD, ADHD, OCD, perfectionism. I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? But I try to, I like you are being very cognizant and consciously aware of the language and words associated with these either isms or conditions that we have, to use them to our advantage. No, I just tend to like things a certain way. I don't need it. Like, I don't need to fix the picture. I just would prefer it to be that way. But if it's a crooked thing, like, okay. And I think that what you're so kind of beautifully saying is that if we give ourselves the grace of embracing what has been maybe either socially unacceptable or culturally not okay in any sense, and just use it to the advantage of how we can make it best for us in our lives and empower us in that way, that's all that truly matters.
Yeah, it's so you're very articulate. I love the way you paraphrase some of these statements.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh,
thanks for doing that. And this idea of self-acceptance, once we get past the idea of I'm broken, but I accept that, instead of I'm unique, there's nothing to accept. It's not about, see, I don't call that thing the law of awareness, the law of acceptance. I call it the law of awareness. It's I'm not accepting that I'm broken. I'm simply aware that these are some of my unique character traits. These are ones that I've managed to capitalize on or even monetize. These are ones that maybe have created some limitations in my life. But rather than feeling badly about myself or shame or whatever it is, that's why I love the phrase, does this serve me? So I may find weaknesses that cause me pain and suffering, that limit my choices or options in some way, or limit my life. And so I may choose to elevate those, to replace those with ones that create the outcome I'm looking for. It's not because I'm broken. It's because, hey, I drive sports cars. I put in the most expensive fuel for a reason. I want to get the most out of that car. Same thing for me. I want to get the most out of Mark Fournier. And how can I do that? Well, I'm going to need to replace the bad fuel with a better, higher octane fuel. I'm going to replace things that keep me from realizing my greatest ultimate potential with things that are going to increase the odds of that. But none of it is driven through some form of self-degradation or, so the self-acceptance is really self-awareness. And I'd love it if people could replace self-acceptance with self-awareness, because self-acceptance is interpreted as a derogatory. It's like, yeah, you're messed up, accept it, deal with it. No, you're not messed up. It's just salt. We've all got it. Yours is you've got pink Himalayan salt, and I've got the old-fashioned iodized salt. It's just salt, though.
Yeah, I love that, because like even the idea of the parts of us that are perfect, it's like perfect according to who? Because even if we were to like fully accept ourselves, and then you go out into the world and there's going to be 8 billion people looking at you with a different lens, and I'm pretty sure they're not all going to agree on which parts of you they like and which parts that they don't like, and what's perfect and what's not perfect. So it's all about how we see ourselves and our own awareness, and just understanding how.
Yes, it's just as you said, around the world, just culturally. I mean, there are cultures that mourn the loss of a loved one. Where the women can never marry again. They wear the black headdress for the rest of their life, and so on. And then go down to New Orleans and somebody dies, and they got a brass band. When the saints go marching in, and they're jumping up and down and dancing in bright colored outfits. Same exact experience. Life has moved on. It's crossed over. How do you want to interpret that? And so, just culturally alone, there, the idea of what is perfect, right? It's so. This I love Einstein's definition of the theory of relativity, and so many people are intimidated by this concept of relativity, general and the special theories, until you understand it. He said, when a young man sits next to, how did he say it? What was it? It was when a young man sits next to a beautiful girl for a minute, for an hour, it seems like a minute. But put him on a hot stove, and a minute will seem like an hour. That's relativity.
Yes.
That was it. He just broke it out into those simple little things. It's everything is relative. Everything. Is it hot or cold outside? Compared to what? It depends on what you compare it to. Am I tall or short? Am I, everything. And so if the answer is to a question, it depends. It depends on how you look at it, depends on what you compare it to, then that means that it is your reality. That means it's not the reality, because the reality doesn't depend on what you compare it to. It just simply is. And once again, we can't see real reality. We can only interpret it through our lens and math and science. So for the most part, it's just being able to say, if everything is relative, then wouldn't it make sense for me to, when I go to decide if something is good or bad, Shakespeare wrote, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yep.
If when I'm about to decide what's great in my life, what's wonderful, what I want to be in a great state today, I'm going to ultimately compare human beings, that is part of the human condition. We compare everything to everything. So would it make more sense for me to compare my life to somebody worth $200 billion who has almost infinite access to resources, or to somebody who is making minimum wage at a job they hate? Who should I compare my life to decide whether I have a life worth celebrating? Right? I call it comparing down. And humans, especially Americans, Western society, we tend to compare up. Comparing ruins lives. We are comparing our life to all those images we see on Facebook that have been filtered and doctored. And I mean, they show their vacation photos, but they don't show the pictures at the airport where they got stranded overnight and the kids were vomiting on their shoes. And they don't show those pictures. They only show the best of the best. And then we're going to compare our vacation to theirs and say, well, my vacation sucks. I need to go there next year, wherever it is they went. Yeah. And we do it with everything. And it doesn't serve us. So I say, at the very least, when you find yourself comparing, always compare down, because that puts you into a state of appreciation. There was an athlete, and I've got to find his name because I just told his story the other day. And I even forgotten the sport he was in, but it may have been baseball. He had one-legged athlete. And he was doing a news interview, and he said, for whatever reason, when I was born, God saw fit to give me one leg. And not a day goes by that I'm not appreciative for that leg.
Wow.
Wait a minute, right?
Yeah, wow.
We're all thinking, poor guy's missing a leg. He's saying, without that leg, I couldn't play sports. I couldn't get around. I'm 6'2" with my leg. Without it, I'd be the height of a wheelchair. I'd be in a chair. My arms would be tied up. He can hop. This guy could hop like we can walk. He says, I keeps my hands free. I am so grateful for that leg. Now that's a mindset.
Yeah.
That's an appreciation mindset. That is a lens. And the beauty of lenses is you can put them on and leave them permanently. And you can have more than one lens, more than one mindset. You can have, and I don't, I mean, I would love to coach Elon Musk because, man, oh man, he could use a coach. But I can say that there are a couple of things that he has. He's a tremendous example of opportunity mindset. No matter what happens, his brain immediately assumes that there's something great about it, something to be learned, something to be gained, and some way of benefiting. And so it's always, how can I turn this into an opportunity? How can I benefit from this? And he sees everything that way. He has a limitless mindset. He truly believes that, well, sure, of course I can run 6 multi-billion-dollar companies all at the same time. Why not? Just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean it can't be done. So he has a few mindsets that are perfect examples of the power of a mindset. But he has them combined. So an opportunity mindset combined with a limitless mindset, that's going to be a powerful individual. And we can cultivate those mindsets by simply taking control of our stories and beliefs, because they add up to how we choose to see the world, to which lenses we look through. And that's what I think is important, because it takes it from this theoretical, abstract discussion about consciousness and so on, and makes it very practical. So yeah, that all sounds great, but I need a better job. I need this now. I need a whatever it is. So how can I make this real? And so we go back to start out by, of course, question everything and start looking for the stories and beliefs that hold you back, that are limiting you, that are causing you pain and suffering. Do you really want to focus on stories and beliefs that cause you pain and suffering or limit you? Or would you like to replace them? And we haven't even really, you mentioned ego. We haven't even gotten into the role ego plays. Of course, ego doesn't want to mess around with anything. Ego's just like, this is the way it is. Ego is a victim extraordinaire. You did this to me, poor me. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not okay. I'm not going to let you make fun of me. You're not. And so ego has a very specific job, which is essentially to keep you from suffering, pain and suffering, from feeling badly, looking bad, from but it sucks. It's our greatest enemy.
It's like not doing a very good job.
No, it developed at the age of like 1.5. How do you know we've had ego at that age? Real simple. You don't have kids, but I'll tell you what, if you did this, you'd see it and go, holy cow. You walk into a room and there's 2 1.5-year-olds sitting there playing, and you just sit down next to them and just watch and don't do anything. They'll just keep on playing. Bring in a cookie and give the cookie to only one of them. Watch what the other one does. He will freak out, because even at the age of 1.5 to 2 years, we have a sense of what's fair, what's not fair, what's right, what's wrong. And that'll be his ego going, that's not okay. And he'll start screaming, give them both a cookie and they're fine. Because, or don't give either of them a cookie and they're fine. So it's not about the cookie.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that ego keeps developing over our lives. And the way it keeps us from looking and feeling badly is by trying to do the opposite, making us look good and feel great. That's where Lamborghinis come in. That's all ego. Lamborghini's not a practical car unless you live on the Autobahn. I have clients, my average client, they're high and ultra high net worth millennials, mostly. Few, at the whole range of age, but it's mostly entrepreneurial millennials. Net worth, I don't know, probably average maybe 100 million. And we're talking about guys from 25 to 35, maybe 40, and very successful. Of course, they've learned that there's something still missing. How can this be? I've got everything, and my life still, I'm not fulfilled or whatever it may be. And then they give me a call and say, okay, now what? I did everything I was supposed to do. I'm now supposed to be the happiest guy alive, and I'm not. Something's wrong. And so it's like every one of them wants a Lamborghini. It's like by my 30th birthday, I'm going to get a Lamborghini. And first thing I do is I say, why? Well, you know what? Again, know thyself. Because they don't know who they are, they don't know the answer. Well, because it's cool. No, keep going. Come on. You can spend, I think, up to $500,000 on a Lambo. So, 350 to $500,000, I think, is the range in there. And it's like, come on. And I finally spell it out. I go, okay, let me help you out here. You picture yourself pulling up in front of this 5-star restaurant, and all the people walking in stop to see who's going to get out of that awesome car. And the parking attendants are fighting over who gets to park your car. And it's the coolest. And you get out of the car with your gorgeous wife. Of course, it's a gorgeous wife because the guy's worth $100 million, right? And I'm saying that as a joke. But you get out with your gorgeous wife and you walk inside, you have your dinner. And while you're sitting there, you're starting to kind of freak out because you're looking out the window. They're supposed to park the car right in front of the restaurant like they always do the nice cars. But it's not there. Did somebody steal my car? Where did they take it? It's all scratched. They scratched my car, this and that. And oh, by the way, when you go outside to get back in the car, one of my clients, 6'4", if you have never gotten into a Lamborghini, it's 4 inches off the ground.
Right.
You have to get on your knees and crawl in. If you're taller than 6 feet, you can't get in it. And once you're in it, you're eating your knees.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's like, come on, keep going. So you're going to spend all this money for a car that you can't get in or out of, that is going to impress people that you don't know, that you'll never see again, that don't matter and never will. Okay. Knowing all the while, by the way, that that anyone else who's done this is doing it for the same reason. And let's take it one step further. This particular client lived in Gilbert, Arizona, where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. I said, so you got this car that wants to do 200 miles an hour. And this particular guy, I said, I'll tell you what, you'll lose your license within a month if you get a Lamborghini, because he's a very, very powerful, aggressive athlete, athletic kind of guy. And I said, so not only will you lose your license within a month, you're going to go half crazy because you're going to be always worried about the car and about what's happening to it and so on. And by the way, I should point out, those people who stop and turn to check out who's getting out of that car, they then turn to whoever's with them and say, what an asshole. Because they're not impressed. They hate you. They're jealous. They're envious. They're not excited. They're not going, oh, I want to be him. They're thinking you're a jerk. So you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And let's find out. So his 30th birthday came up, and I talked him into renting the Lamborghini for a day. And
okay, good
he
compromise.
calls me up. It's on his birthday because he had the Lamborghini. He calls me up and he's laughing on the phone. I go, "What's going on, man?" He goes, "Okay, I've had the car for 20 minutes and I just got my first ticket." He says, "I'm taking the damn thing back to the dealership because I'll lose my license by the end of today. Forget a month from now. I won't make it through the day because I can't get it out of first gear without getting a ticket." And it's like,
That's
okay,
hilarious.
this is when know thyself is really practical application. So why do I want this? Is it to impress people? Is it to prove to someone else or to prove to myself that I'm okay? What if you just woke up in the morning and said, "I'm okay. I'm not perfect. No one is, and that's enough. And that's okay. I don't need a Lamborghini to impress anyone, much less myself." That doesn't say tell anybody who I am. It just tells somebody that my ego is making my purchasing decisions.
Absolutely. This is a beautiful example to him. And I'm so glad that you're able to give tangible examples like this with humor, which I very appreciate because you're speaking, I think, what everybody is thinking in these scenarios of Lamborghini. We lived in LA for years. We're moving back there actually. And yes, you can imagine the plethora of celebrities and cars that we see there.
Yeah,
Sitting in traffic.
Sitting in traffic, yes. But my point is, this is
the Lamborghini, by the way, you don't get a special pass. There's not a special lane for people with Lamborghinis.
I know.
You have to sit in the same traffic as the guy with the $150 beater from the.
Yes.
Yeah.
1000%. But this is exactly beautiful points to us trying to control or change the outside world when our inner world is really who we're trying to figure out to be. That inner world is going to naturally change it. Once you know thyself, accept thyself, transform if you'd like, you'll probably get all the beautiful women in Lamborghinis and go to the 5-star restaurants. It's just, it falls into place, just as we kind of spoke about at the very beginning, like health is a part of our life. The body just kind of follows, like your life will follow suit to the degree of what you're able to transform and love and accept within you. Then you let the outer world change around you.
Oh my gosh. So you really nailed it when you said, and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Which ties into something that I'd said a little earlier, where the outcome will take care of itself.
I mean, Mark, in all honesty, I'm still figuring this out. I trust though. I have a lot of trust and a lot of synchronicities, but yes, it's all gonna be okay. It's gonna work out.
Well, remember, I mean, I was born with this stuff and I'm 70 in 2 years from now. So I've had a long time to practice. I said I'll be 70 in 2 years. So I had a long time to practice this.
But regardless, when you said you were 60 before, like you honestly don't look a day over 50.
More. My ego's loving this. Tell my ego that I'm good and that I'm okay.
All that pickleball.
So and thank you. And of course, mindset can also keep us in a healthier place.
Absolutely.
My mindset keeps me making very, very healthy food choices. It's caused me to become relatively knowledgeable in health and nutrition and fitness. And those are all outcomes though, because my mindset is that I'm not my body, but my body is a really useful device for hauling around my consciousness. And I want, and I'm loving my life. And so I want to keep this vehicle as healthy as possible and for as long as possible, both physically and mentally, so that my consciousness can keep on having these remarkable experiences. And so for me, again, I don't need willpower. There's certain things I just don't do. Certain foods I just don't eat. And I don't feel badly and I don't feel like it's beating me up. I mean, I won't stick a fork in my face either. I don't care. You can pay me $100 and I'm not jabbing myself with a fork. So once you decide that it's really something you don't want, it's easier to not do it.
Beautifully said. The simplicity of that is just wonderful. And then, yes, own to our own individual perspectives and lives. And yes, I feel like Like, I knew that this was going to be, we could talk to you for so much longer and so many different other aspects we could bring up. But as we wrap up here, Mark, we always want to leave the space open. If there's anything that you feel we either didn't cover or that you hold near or dear to your heart that you'd like to leave our listeners with.
You know what? Thank you for that. And I could give you about a 3-hour version of
Yeah.
answer to that question.
And we would listen.
Gee, which of all these things would I love to impart? And it's so hard to choose. So I'll grab something super simple, because I found that it's easier. It's sometimes better to get one really simple concept than 20 brilliant ideas that you can't remember.
Absolutely.
Here's one my favorite holiday, other than Father's Day. I always tell my kids Father's Day is my favorite because it's the only holiday you have to earn.
Yeah.
You don't have to earn your birthday. You just got born. You don't earn Christmas or Halloween, or
that is
you
true.
have to earn. If you want your kids to say you're the world's greatest dad, then you better do something to get there. But actually, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. And the reason is the 2 words. You want the secret to create an incredible life? Live in a state of thanks, a state of appreciation, and a state of contribution. Thanks and giving. It's the answer to almost everything. No matter where you are in your life, no matter what's happening on any given day or any given moment, ask yourself, is there something at this moment that I can do to either increase my level of appreciation or to make a difference in the life of someone else? Because no matter what you're going through, and either one or both of those things will change your state instantly and put you in this, because those are mindsets. Thanks and giving. Thanks, appreciation mindset, giving, contribution mindset. So, all right, let me put those lenses back on. Somehow they must have fallen off. I'm going to screw them back in, and I'm going to stop looking at poor me. I will give you one other little thing, which is,
please do.
Because we talked about 2 of the 4 pillars that I do with my clients is, so know thyself. So we just break their life apart until they know who they are. Accept thyself until they're just so good with themselves that their ego hardly ever even engages, because it doesn't feel threatened any longer. It feels like, okay, it's all good. Oh, constructive feedback. Yeah, give it to me. That would normally trigger ego, but it's not triggered because I know everything's okay. The third one is then, so know thyself, accept thyself, be true to thyself. Now that you know who you are, create a life that's based on what you have now discovered. Don't live somebody else's life. I had one client, she had spent like 25 years writing a science fiction book. She couldn't seem to finish it, kept writing and writing and working on it. Until one guy just said, why are you doing this? You seem miserable. Seems to be just frustrating the heck out of you. And we did a little regression and realized her mom always wanted to be a writer and was a frustrated writer. And she projected this onto her daughter. Her daughter was doing it for her mom because her mom kept saying, you could be a great writer. And she was trying to prove her mom that she was right, trying to live into it. But the truth is, she hated writing. I don't care how gifted you are at anything. If you hate doing it, you're probably not going to set records. And the minute she realized that she didn't even like writing, she was doing it for her mom, she stopped. And the very next day she goes, I am free. I can live any life I want now. My whole future is opened up. I can throw that damn book in a drawer and forget about it. Every time I started working on it, it made me feel like a failure because she wasn't being true to herself. So be true to yourself, and start asking what kind of a life would serve a person who has this profile that I've identified, who has these desires and interests and so on. And then the fourth one is, and I do this in order, and the fourth one is speak thy truth. That's the hardest one. We love it in movies when we see the hero stand up and do what's right and say what's right, even though you know they're going to get their butt kicked. You know it's going to cost them. It's going to be bad things are going to come, and they still do it. And we love it because we know deep down inside how powerful that is, how much, what integrity. And integrity isn't about being good. It's about being who you say you are. If I said I'm a bank robber and I went and robbed a bank, I'd have integrity. I told you I was a bank robber. So we start now, they know who they are. They want to live with integrity. This is who I am, and I'm going to share who I am with the world which I can now do because I've accepted myself. I don't need you to approve of me. I just want to share who I am, and you can do what you want with it. And that's okay. So those are a couple of things that I think can give somebody some pause for thought. And oh my gosh, well, this is the fastest hour and a half interview I think I've ever had. See, there you go. Law of relativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Hour and a half interview will seem like 10 minutes if you're in the right place. And sure enough, this
The
is
flow
one
of
of
the
them.
conversation. Yeah.
You
Mark,
guys are awesome.
oh gosh, we thank you. Like I said, we cannot thank you enough. We are honored to have you here. I mean, you are also just a wealth of knowledge. We love to direct people, you know, to your website, your social media that has great clips. What can we put in the show notes for people to find you if they want to dive deeper?
Sure. I think probably just typing in Mark Fournier Presents for a Google search, because I added the presents because there's more than one Mark Fournier. There's one with this teenager wearing a full-on the Hitler regime, the really bad guys, the SS. He's wearing an SS uniform doing this. And he looks a little bit like me because he was younger.
Okay, we'll be sure not to link that.
Doing the Heil Hitler. Wrong Mark Fournier. That's not me. So yeah, Mark Fournier Presents, and it's spelled Fournier. So Mark Fournier Presents, and that'll take you to everything, YouTube and all sorts of other things. But you know, for coaching, I only coach 10 people per year at any given time, only 10 folks, but that's the limitlesscoach.com.
Sure.
And I guess the last thing would be I'm launching Limitless University, but it's going to take a little bit before I really get it there. If you go there now, you'll just see a few almost placeholders. But that's been my real dream, because if I only coach 10 people per year, and my mission is to raise human consciousness on a global scale, well, that may not get the job done with just 10 folks, unless all 10 of them are Elon Musk.
Level. He might be after your coaching.
Yeah, and that may well take place. But so Limitless University is for the purpose of giving away for absolute free as much knowledge and insight and information as possible that will create enlightened beings. And not just my stuff. I'm doing something similar to what Bill Gates did when he created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and went to all the billionaires and said, I want you to pledge 50% of your entire net worth to our charity, and we will then use it to change the world. Well, I'm doing the same thing with all the greatest writers and speakers and trainers, getting them to donate a huge percentage of their, whether it's podcasts or books, seminars, CDs. Most of them have a backlog. They have a storage building full of a 5-year-old cassette recordings or whatever, things that because they've gone to the next thing, but this stuff is still really good, and it's just sitting in a warehouse. And so these are folks I will be getting them all to contribute, to donate, and I want the whole world to have access to this knowledge and insight. So
that sounds incredible.
So it's limitlessu.org. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3, which was created that way because I'm not doing it to make money. I just want to get it out there. So limitless with the letter U.org. Limitlessuniversity.com will get you there too. But that's one that, especially over time, will make a difference. I'll make 2 more contributions and I'll let you fly off. One, I do have a website. I have an app. That's it's called. So you just go to your app store and download. One of them is called Life Balance Test. Super simple. Take it in 2 minutes. You'll know all 10 areas of your life, where you're in balance, where you're out of balance, with the idea being that a balanced life is infinitely more rewarding than being take all 10 categories. Let's say somebody who scores a 10 in career and a 10 in financial security. He's a trillionaire. But on the other side, he scores a 0 in health and fitness because he doesn't take care of himself, relationships because he doesn't spend time with his family. Let's say his wife is having an affair and his daughter just overdosed on fentanyl. I don't care if this guy's worth 10 trillion. he's not going to be happy.
Of course.
So give me a person with 5 10s and 5 zeros, they'll be one of the most miserable people you've ever met. Give me a person with 10 5s, and that will be one of the happiest, most fulfilled people you've ever met. So in Western culture, we're all trying to get the 10s at the expense of, we're trying to get the money, get the stuff at the expense of these other things. So I always, when I start coaching with my clients, I say, we're going to bring these up. Even if it means these come down a little, that's not the issue. You don't need a 10 in financial security. You don't need to be worth $1 trillion. But this stuff, without it, you'll never find your true place. So life balance test will help you find out where you need to work. And the other one, I got to get it back online. It's called OmniCoach. One word, phonetically spelled, OmniCoach. It's the world's first AI-powered life and career coach.
Wow.
And it doesn't use AI to coach you, because you never know what AI is going to do. It uses AI to find the greatest minds who've ever lived, to figure out how they would answer your question, to create a singularity of, if all the greatest minds of all time got together and pondered your question, here's what they would agree on. That answer, I guarantee you, will be one of the most insightful answers you've ever gotten, because it's what Plato and Einstein and what all of them would agree. And so that's OmniCoach. The challenge is it uses ChatGPT 4, and after you get about 100 hits a month or whatever it is, they start charging you. So I had to take it off until I could get like AdMob or get some kind of monetize it just enough so it'll pay for itself.
Sure.
And so if you go today, but at least your listeners, this may have a long lifespan, so it may be in a month from now you're listening to this, and they can go to OmniCoach, and they can get, and it's actually even more exciting because you can also ask for a specific person. I want to be coached by Oprah Winfrey. I want to be coached by Jesus, by Buddha, by Lao Tzu. And it will go and find everything they've ever said, and it will figure out what would they say based on all of their input. How would they answer this? It'll even do it with fictitious characters.
Oh my gosh, wow.
My daughter asked it Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
How important is family to having a happy life? And she comes back and says, family is everything. I sacrificed my whole life to save my sister from being taken into the Hunger Games.
Wow.
Nothing is more important. And it figured out based on her character description, storylines, and it was as accurate as anything could have been. I mean, I'm a writer and I couldn't have written a better answer. So that's something that I think will contribute to folks as well.
Definitely. We'll make sure to link all of those in the show notes. This has been an absolute pleasure, Mark. Again, we thank you for joining us today.
Namaste. Thank you so much for having me.